Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Today I'm going to go through my TBR for September. So we're coming up to the end of the month, which means it's time for me to take a look ahead to what I'm going to be reading in the next one. I have put together my September plan with the usual kind of mix of buddy reads. I've got an arc in there as well. And then there are a few potentials that I can kind of merge into my MBR, my might be read section, depending on how these ones go. So I'm going to dive straight in with buddy reads, and if you've been watching the channel over the last few months, you know that I've had an ongoing buddy read with my book bestie Nina. We've been doing the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey, and in September that comes to an end. So book 9 is Leviathan Falls. I am looking forward to this one, but the last couple of books haven't really hit the mark for me, so I'm going into it with a bit of trepidation, if I'm honest. I have heard that it's a fantastic ending, it's a really good close to the series. I do often find that anyway, if I've enjoyed a series overall, then the final book does tend to be pretty good for me, because it's more than just the story. You've got the wrapping up of the whole arc, all of the characters, the kind of world, essentially, in many respects. So yeah, looking forward to it. I'm hoping it's going to be an improvement for me on the last two books that I read. Book 7 and 8 in the series, as I say, didn't really go down that well for me. There were a couple of things in there that just didn't really work for me, but I'm not going to go into them in too much detail, because obviously that deep into a series you get into spoiler territory very easily as soon as you start talking any plot points. So Leviathan Falls is going to be book 1 on the list. Book 2 on the list for September is also a buddy read, and it's one that's been a long time coming. I'm going to be reading Wolf Eater by Anthony Mitchell. So Nina actually got me this one. I think it was because she wanted to buddy read it. She had a copy as well, but it's one that I've had for quite a while now, and the time has just, for whatever reason, never been right. But I deliberately put this on my 2023 reading plan because I wanted to get to it, and that was a surefire way to make sure it was towards the top of the pile. It may have waited to the end of the year, but in September, Wolf Eater is going on the list. The next book on my list is an arc. This is one that I've had for a little while. I was planning to potentially pick it up in August, but I got another arc that came through, and that kind of took priority over it, so I haven't got to this one as yet. But this is Talon Sister by Jen Williams. Comes out on the 12th, I think, of September, so it's going to be one of the first reads that I have to get it finished and reviewed as close to the release date as possible. I haven't heard too much about this one. I mean, it's not been released yet, so there have not been many reviews coming out so far. There's certainly not been people in my circle reading it and recommending it so far, or anything along those lines, but I really liked the sound of this one. I do love the cover as well. The overall design maybe not, but I love the detail in it with the individual stitching for the entire design there, minus the text. I will read off the synopsis of this one because I thought it sounds really cool, and when I read it again in putting my notes together for this video, I did think again to myself, yes, I really want to read this one. It is exciting. So we've got, well, it says first of all that it's ideal for fans of Andrea Stewart and John Gwynne. I haven't read any Andrea Stewart yet, but as you can see, I don't mind a bit of John Gwynne, so that's a good start. Leven has no memory of her life before she was a soldier. The process of turning her into a herald, a magical killing machine, was traumatic enough that it wiped her mind clean. Now, with the war won and the Imperium satisfied, she finds herself unemployed and facing a bleak future. Her fellow heralds are disappearing, and her own mind seems to be coming apart at the seams. Strange visions, memories she shouldn't have, are resurfacing, and none of them make any sense. They show her Brittle Tane, the ancient and mysterious island that the Imperium was never able to tame. Leven resolves to go to this place of magic and warring queens with the hope of finding who she really is. It continues. Envoy Cato has done a number of important little jobs for the Imperium, most of them nasty, all of them in the shadows. His newest assignment is to escort the bone crafter Ginid Tiley as she travels across the Imperium. As a woman responsible for creating the heralds, his employers owe her a great deal. But Tylee's ambition alarms even Cato, and her conviction that she has found a new source of Titan bones buried deep within the earth could lead to another, even bloodier war. Innis was raised by the Griffins and has never seen another human face. She lives wild as they do, eating her meat raw and flying with her Talon sister Turok. The Griffins fiercely protect their isolation. The piles of skulls that litter the mountains of Brittletaine are testament to that, but the magic they guard will always make them a target for the greed of men. By choosing not to kill Innis when she was a baby, the Griffins may have doomed themselves because the girl's past is coming for her and it carries a lethal blade. So, as I said, when I reread that, because I forgot what the book was about, basically, it was a little while ago that I looked into it and requested the review copy on NetGalley, but as I reread that this morning, I was again filled with excitement for this book. It sounds really good. I've only read one book by Jen Williams. It was quite a while ago, The Copper Cat, or the Copper Cat trilogy. It was book one of that, was The Copper Promise. I did have quite a good time with it, but I'm hoping to have an even better time with this one. Next on my list for September is going to be a tick in the finished series box. I'm going to read Where Heroes Were Born, book 3 of Pillars of Peace by Tom Dumbrell. So continuing this series was one of my goals for 2023, so I don't have to read this one to kind of complete that goal. It's just to continue the series, but I do want to complete it. It is thicker. It's about half as thick again as the previous two books in the series, but I've had a pretty good time with them. This one is set 10 years after the end of the previous book, so 10 years have passed since the Battle of Highcastle. As Peacehaven's new king takes the country from strength to strength, Fran strikes out on her own in neighbouring Corness, where she is chosen shield to the venerated Queen Matilde. So I did hear, the author did tell me that it was going to be a new POV, so we're looking at Fran as the main character, or at least one of the main characters of this one. I'm okay with that. I didn't mind the character of Fran, and of course it's the overall story that I'm looking for. I'm hoping for a good time with this one. I've also then got another book from my 2023 reading plan because I'm starting to run out of time to tick all of these ones off, so I'm going to be taking a couple of them probably per month over the remainder of the year. First up though is from that same category, continuing series that I was already in the middle of. And I'm going with book 2 of the God King Chronicles. This is the Splinter King by Mike Brooks, and it's a nice chunky one. So I had a really good time with the Black Coast. It was very different, certainly not what I was expecting. You've got these big war dragons. I think they're non-flying from memory. And then you've got an invading force, basically, which turns out to be not quite what was expected. So they're not invading as such. They're not coming over for battle and for pillage and plunder. They're coming over to settle. They want to kind of make a partnership, essentially, and live together in peace with their long-time enemies, essentially. So really excited for this one. I do believe it's a bit of a different story. It kind of changes tack a bit from that first book. Hopefully that's not going to be a bad thing because, as I say, I really enjoyed it. I liked the characters, I liked the setting, the overall kind of concept for the story, and I'm hoping this one doesn't change too much of that. Alright, so those are the 5 books I've initially planned for myself. As I mentioned, I am going to start adding back in some titles into the MBR section. I'm not taking anything from the TBR jar in this video. I might do if I've got the time, but I do have a number of arcs and other review copies that I really want to be getting to before leaving them for too long. So first of all, one of the possibilities for this month coming up is going to be Wolf of Withervale by Joaquin Phoenix. This one I would love to show you. It's sitting on my shelf out of sight at the moment. It's a beautiful book and I can't wait to show it off, but the cover reveal isn't until the 12th of September, so I'm not going to show that one off to you just as yet. It comes out on the 12th of October, so you've got a full month to get excited for it after seeing the cover. But really excited for this one. As I say, it's a beautiful looking book. There are 6 books in the series. The author has written all 6 of them before releasing the first one. So yeah, it's going to be a completed series that's hopefully going to be really good and releasing, I don't know what sort of release timetable it is, but releasing in quite a short amount of time, I believe. I've then got another review copy, quite a short one here, but The Hunters Lament by Steve Pannett. You'll be able to hear more about this in, I think it's the October indie showcase that I've got coming up. I've got a video from Steve, but this book comes out on the 6th of November, I think it is, and so that video clip is going to be held off until a little bit closer to the time. This one is kind of a retired bounty hunter coming out of retirement for one last job sort of story. It did sound quite interesting. He's forming a crew, I think, or he's got a crew, going off to find a missing princess, I think it is. I could read this off the back of the book, I know, but I did so recently, and I want to give it enough time basically to seep out of my memory before I pick up the book itself. But it did sound quite interesting when well, shall I say, not when I first of all read it, but when I saw Steve's video, I thought he did a pretty good job of selling it. He definitely sold it to me, and so I said, yeah, okay, I'll take up your offer of a review copy, and hopefully I'll enjoy it. But as I say, it's quite a short one. It's only 300 pages-ish, just under 270 or so, so hopefully I'll be able to squeeze this one in a little bit more easily than others. And then the last one on the possible list is another November release. I think it comes out around about the same time as The Hunters Lament. This is Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldry. I really did have a good time, surprisingly maybe, I don't know, with Legends and Lattes, which I nearly forgot the name of. So I'm hoping that I'm going to have a good time with this. It's not the sequel, I guess it's the prequel. It's in Viv, the main orc character's younger years. So we don't have all of the characters who we met, obviously, in Legends and Lattes. We're going to have some new characters. Some of her crew who showed up in the first book a little bit will presumably therefore be more heavily involved. But I don't know, because we're not out adventuring. We're in, well, a bookshop, as it says. So yeah, I'm hoping for a good time with this one as well. Somehow, even though it's been out for a while for review copies, as I say, it's released in November. I've had my review copy for a couple of months already, just through NetGalley, and I've still not really heard too much about it. So I don't know whether that's people holding off their reviews until closer to release date. That's why I've not read it yet, so I can review it after I have read it and it be closer to release date. But yeah, it's one that I'm really looking forward to, hoping for a good time with this one as well. So those are my planned books, or in some cases potentially planned books, I guess, for September's reading. Let me know in the comments down below if there's any of these you're particularly interested in hearing my thoughts on, and also what are you going to be reading in September as well. I'll hopefully catch you in the next video sometime soon, but until then, as always, take care of yourselves, read some good books. Bye for now.